Welcome to the Indian Gaming Association's The New Normal webcast. My name is Lisa Johnson. I'm the conference manager for the Indian Gaming Trade Show and Convention. I'd like to share a few housekeeping tips before we get started. Everyone is muted by default except for our speakers. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the chat box and they'll be brought up at the end. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Victor Rocha, conference chairman of the Indian Gaming Association.
Good morning, Lisa. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the New Normal, your go-to source for insightful discussions on the gaming industry and critical issues affecting Native American tribes across the United States. I'm Victor Rocha, and joining me, it looks like he's in the shower, is my co-host Jason Giles, executive. There he is. My co-host Jason Giles, executive director of the Indian Gaming Association, sliding in right under the wire. Today on the New Normal, we're joined by our friend Tyler Burtis, the president and CEO of Burtis Investigations LLC, to talk about a growing and dangerous phenomena: online casinos fraudulently portraying themselves as legitimate tribal commercial operations. It's happening across the country, and it's happening right now, from fake ads on social media to unauthorized use of tribal casino names and logos. These scams are putting players at risk and threatening the integrity of regulated gaming. Tyler, welcome to the New Normal. Tyler, how you doing, man?
Great. Thank you, Victor. Always a pleasure to work with you.
Jason, good morning.
Morning. Thank you for
So,
joining us, Tyler.
yeah.
This is
So as you know, in my role in Pachanga.net, I sit and work at the end of the night. It's my job to go through and figure out what's been going on through the day and make sure we understand where the threats are coming from. But it's been very obvious over the last couple months, there's this real phenomena of these fake online casinos, and they've just become very emboldened and very brazen, using tribal logos and tribal branding and saying, we are online now and you can download our apps and you can play. And it's not even sweepstakes type of stuff where these guys are basically stealing the names. And as I saw this, and Tyler's my friend, and Tyler's the guy, if I have any questions about law enforcement, I usually go to Tyler, and I emailed him and we started this conversation. So I thought it would be great to have this conversation. First of all, Tyler, welcome very much. You spent years investigating gaming crime. Tell us about yourself and tell our audience who you are, my friend.
Great. Well, thank you, Victor. I spent about 30 years in law enforcement, predominantly in Southern California. Worked a variety of assignments, including major crimes, homicides, and kidnappings, and rounded out my career as the special agent in charge of Southern California for the Bureau of Gam Control. So I had responsibility throughout Southern California, from San Luis Obispo to Mexico out to Arizona, Nevada. I had an office in Los Angeles, Riverside, and San Diego. Towards the end, a large portion of my career there was being a management level representative on the Los Angeles High Intensity Financial Crime Area Task Force, which was run by the U.S. Attorney's Office. And we predominantly worked on financial crimes, money laundering, and also worked several of the casino card room cases that you've seen in recent history.
We got to bring him back one day just to talk about this stuff. He's been involved, and he's my FinCEN guy. And Tyler's had this amazing career and been with the industry a long time and watched it grow and seen the growing pains. And keeping our industry clean has been your job for many, many years. What did you think about these new online casinos? What was your reaction?
Yeah, when you sent it to me, it immediately brought back memories of the internet cafes that were operating illegally throughout the country. And I thought it was going to be some type of, log in and play something for some type of monetary value or something of value in return. But my immediate response was, I obviously have tribal clients that I work with on a regular basis. And immediately I'm whether it be AML, your FinCEN issues that you were talking about, the Bank Secrecy Act. One of the things I feel very strongly about is the tribe's reputation and brand damage through any type of activity like this. I use the commercial gaming as shareholders that they can get a fine, they can be in trouble, they can get bad media, and that commercial brand, maybe tainted a little bit. But when you talk about tribes that have worked so hard to have a good, highly regulated industry, to have somebody come in and tarnish it, and like this, completely unbeknownst to the tribe, there's no involvement from the tribes that are involved with this. So now you have somebody using legitimacy or a highly regulated industry to then suggest that their operation is legal, enticing them to come in. The other thing I immediately thought of was they're just shooting, fish in a barrel type of thing. If I put enough different casino logos on there, I'm eventually going to hit a few people that are maybe signed up with that casino. Maybe they're regular members of that casino, and gives it even more legitimacy, because now I'm thinking, okay, well, it's the marketing from my favorite tribal casino that I'm going to. So it's even more susceptible for somebody to fall into that. Initially, more so than just an illegal gambling act, I looked at this straight fraud. Okay, this is just another way for me to get into a system, provide my personal identifiable information, and God forbid, my banking account information, so that I'm thinking I'm going to get some type of money in return. And then you name it. At that point, I could be victimized by every which way for a period of time, if that's sold on the dark web, or if it's just used to immediately empty those accounts, or that type of thing. So there's so many layers to this. It's not just about throwing out some bogus gambling site. There's a variety of different brand damage, possible fraud, and then all the identity theft that would go along with it, if in fact these are bad actors operating just for that purpose.
Well, last week the Missouri Gaming Commission put out a consumer protection alert about this very issue, and I thought what was interesting. What they said is, listen, if you're going to gamble, do it on legitimate websites. 'Cause the main thing is, if you have disputes, if you can't get paid, we can't help you. We are, here trying to create a space that's safe. And but I think it's a bigger issue of just people being inundated with gambling, and everywhere you turn, and using brand names. You can use something like Swift or Kerfuffle, or so use Saquon, use Pachunga, use Foxwoods. You know what I mean? Because and these people don't care, because it's not legit. It's just about getting them, like you said, to sign up. And I assume the number one thing is to get their money, but obviously, identity theft is a really big issue here too.
Yeah, well, and I think the other issue is, number one, obviously in California, online gambling is still illegal. So one, if somebody's going in there, they could also be reluctant to come forward if they feel as though they knew something was illegal and they were trying to sign up for it. So they've also got the possible victim in a bind of maybe reluctant to come forward. The other thing that immediately came to mind when you reached out to me, in the middle of the night, by the way, I remember.
Well, that's my work, everybody knows that.
And so, but when Victor calls, I answer. When you look at the other aspect of, some of the tribes have been associated nationwide with a platform to develop that customer base for if and when online gambling goes legal, right? So there's even been, nothing of value. It's legal that they're producing. So I think for the consumer, it can be very confusing. Okay, what am I getting into? What am I signing up for? And there's been so much talk about the legalization of it. Not everybody monitors C-SPAN every day, or what's legal, what's not legal, and may even be unwittingly going into it thinking that it is legal now. So there's so many variables here that I think the best thing is what you're doing right here, Victor, is getting the information out, making people aware, really check what you're getting into. I would encourage people not to sign up for anything like that without going to the actual brick and mortar tribal casino and signing up through that marketing department that's verified and it's legitimate type of thing, because it's so easy to get scammed nowadays.
Well,
Tyler,
go ahead, Jason.
Tyler, if you go back to the 90s and 2000s, when offshore gambling started to become big in America, we had scant effectiveness in stopping it then. The banks didn't want to get involved. They didn't want to monitor transactions. and our Justice Department and everybody else just kind of threw up their hands. And uh, and there was even laws on the books. Congress actually passed a law, uh, UIGA, to crack down on this stuff. But I don't think the regs were ever implemented by Treasury Department. And now we've got advanced technology from '90s and 2000s. And so I'm just worried. We couldn't stop it then, when arguably we had probably a better opportunity to. And now with AI and everything else, and these things can just be created so quickly and taken down so quickly and then reinvented again, move somewhere else. Uh, the servers can jump around. This is just gonna. It looks to me like it's just an ongoing game of whack-a-mole. And,
It
and
was just
yeah, I mean, I really worry for the future on this stuff, because if you start getting involved, like, this administration wants to make crypto more and more acceptable, but the whole crypto thing is anonymity, and I think these sites would thrive on that. And
yeah.
so where do we begin on all this in terms of I guess getting education out? But kids, it's mostly kids, let's be honest, because it's on your phone. It's something that they take too easily in terms of the ease of playing. How can we get out there in front of this?
Well, Jason, great question. And first and foremost, I'm much too young to remember the '90s and 2000s.
Oh boy, I found a file in my garage from 1998 the other day, just filled. And not to change the subject, but I used to print the articles out. So I would find the articles. I had this whole.
Well, so
Yeah,
Tyler,
Jason, you really took the words right out of my mouth. I was literally going to say it's whack-a-mole, because
Okay.
it's just that. All right. So first of all, there are illegal gambling sites still operational. You've seen them in the news. I won't talk about anything I was working on when I was actually still with the government. But read the articles about the MGM case, right? That was still offshore accounts being used to do the illegal sports betting, even though there's legal sports betting in Las Vegas, right? So there's always going to be that aspect to it. Number one, going back to your original question, you really have to build awareness to prevent the victimization of not only the casinos for the fraud and the brand and name damage that's being caused, the victimization of people that are now going to be victim of fraud through these if they unwittingly do it, or if they willingly do it and think it's illegal. Then again, like I've already said, that the reluctance to then come forward and bring that forward. So really, I can tell you that I reached out to the head of the Bureau of Gambling Control now. I reached out to the U.S. Attorney's Office as recent as yesterday, making them all aware of what's happening, and in preparation for this webinar with Victor and you. And it reached out as well to I have very good contacts at the Secret Service, and they have a very, very good cyber unit that operates out of the Secret Service. A lot of people don't realize that. That's based on fraud and looking at fraud victimization through cyber. So one is getting agencies to put out the awareness, getting agencies to actually investigate it and look at where these sites are located. And most importantly, if people are being victimized, that we have a central location that they can report to, so that case is then developed amongst all the victims, and we know how broad it really is and coming forward. Because somebody, especially the fraud aspect of it, you're going to want victims that and then you can look at where is that coming from? Where is the database? Where is the servers? That type of thing. Reality, it's very, very difficult to hold those people accountable in those offshore locations, and it may even be legal in that country, right, where that's operating, but it's not legal in the majority of the states here. So really, it's a difficult case to work, because you do have to have the victims come forward. You have to have people and be able to demonstrate the loss and what's happened, and have it large enough that the governments want to dedicate time and energy to that. So with that being said, I really think you and Victor are on the cutting edge in the sense of, number one, you've got to have the public awareness. You've got to have people take that extra step to look at what's being marketed to them before they even sign up, have them report it to the tribal casino that's names being used and the logos being used and that type of thing. With that being said, I think, and Victor and I have talked about this in preparation, is this is a much wider spread problem, right? So this is one aspect of it. And just like whack-a-mole, another thing is they're fishing for as many people as they can get. This is a one population with the casino industry. You may have another one with elder abuse where they're victimizing them, trying to get them to sign up for whatever AARP type program, and it's not really AARP. It's so broad, and there's so many different aspects that they're just going to keep doing it and keep trying to get people to sign up again to get that personal information. You talk about virtual currency. That's a whole nother aspect of it. I mean, I get LinkedIn hits all the time, asking me to sign on to this new cutting edge, Bitcoin program, even on LinkedIn,
my nightmare. Oh my God.
You my nightmare. Going on and on, going back to the casino though, I think the key areas, and I have not gone on one of the links myself because I'm not going to taint my company computer. But once one of those agencies takes this on, if they haven't already, is they're going to be looking at what is the sign up procedure? What are they asking for? Where are these IP addresses located? That's the type of thing that needs to happen on the other end. But I think even law enforcement and gaming regulators need to step up and put out this information to all of their constituents that, hey, there's a problem here. Be very cautious. And I think even the tribes need to keep not just Google alerts, but their marketing departments should be constantly scanning the internet for any type of fraudulent marketing programs so that they're not victimized.
Yeah. And you know what? Everything you said is so important because, you have to stand up. You have to be vigilant yourself. You can't rely on someone else to do it for yourself. You have to be vigilant. You have to be responsible for your own safety. Raymond Stogner in here has a great question. He goes, how do you go about getting an app removed that is using your casino name? We have one that has popped up and has reported it, but Facebook is not removing it. And this is a bigger, deeper issue now. Google and Apple are being sued right now because they're saying, these online casinos, these apps, they can download on your website and they get some of the money in sweepstakes. You can download Fliff and they get a percentage of those coins that you are paying through their app. That's the way it works. That's all the big laws. So until you take the money out of it that is profitable for social media, that Facebook and Google, you're going to have a problem because that's the vehicle of transmission. These are ad delivery vehicles that everybody, every day, you talk about LinkedIn, Facebook, and Raymond talks about a very important issue here. Facebook is not removing it. That's also how people receive it because it doesn't happen in a vacuum. So part of this is like, Zuckerberg is driving the getaway car and he gets a percentage of the heist money. You know what I mean? So social media has a big problem here also. How do we do it? So until we get these guys to do it, which are hiding under the First Amendment and business and all this stuff and looking for rules, we're going to have a problem because these guys are driving the getaway car. They get a percentage of the heist, Yeah. And what they try to do after that, they try Roblox is doing this a lot. They're saying, listen, I have a 9-year-old. Don't buy the coins through the app. Go to the website and we'll give you 200 more for Robux. And that's because they don't want to give a percentage of the cut to Apple. They don't want you to use that. And that's the issue that we're dealing with here. Somebody's driving the getaway car. If it wasn't profitable, they wouldn't be doing it. And so the fact now that these guys, and Raymond, thank you so much for your question, because this is on Facebook. So the people are looking at it. They're like, well, it must be legitimate. You know what I mean? And it's his casino and Facebook is not they're not doing it. So, I say Facebook and Google are driving the getaway cars,
So, again, I think my answer is similar in the sense that you really need to compile the data. You need to show how many tribes have been affected, how many names, how many logos, what sites are doing this. I work with some very, very prestigious law firms on a regular basis. And, the tribes coming together, all going together against the larger social media platforms, is always the best route, right? If they know they've got multiple tribal casinos and a well-named law firm coming at them, it's far more likely they'll be a little more proactive in getting these sites off. Not to mention the fact, and they're also providing a platform for illegal gambling, if in fact that's what these platforms are doing, other than just stealing people's information.
Well, what do you think, Jason?
Well, I mean, and Tyler, someone asked a good question. Ed Mazzetti here asked a question. This collection of data from tribal casino customers, could that lead to a cyber attack on the casino? Is there threats of that?
If I don't want to get into a whole cyber conversation,
Right.
but hello, Ed Mazzetti. I'm a good friend. I think the world of Ed Mazzetti.
Okay.
I think a bigger question. I mean, obviously, there was a case where a cyber attack was done through a third-party fish tank, right? I mean, that was one of the largest one of the largest cyber attacks going on in the Vegas area. So I think what you may see, and one of the things I thought about before we got on this call, is if in fact one logo is becoming more active and they're receiving more people signing up through that logo, and then they'll have an association with, clearly maybe these people are associated with that tribe, right? So they may focus more on that because it's successful. No different than any other marketing technique, right? If I'm going out there, and I'll say this only because they put it out publicly, but Saquon recently put out an announcement to look out for this scam. If I'm the bad actor and I'm getting the most hits through this one logo, I may focus more on that. And now what am I obtaining? I may be obtaining their actual client list, right? So now I dig deeper and fish for those people even more and find other links. I have no way of knowing if this is a larger cyber group or if it's just simply people trying to quick hit and take money off these people that sign up and they're on to the next casino, they're on to the next platform. So again, I have not investigated this. And again, is it possible? The more you broaden that spectrum out, the more people you have on that list that may have ties or other accessibility into that, it's possible. I would tell you, again, I'm not an IT expert. I have cyber background. I've worked around cyber stuff. I go to the experts, like I said, at the Secret Service. We have Secret Service teach at the UNLV program that I'm a part of on the cyber attack issues. Anytime I would be very reluctant. Like I said, I didn't even click on one of the links. If you have somebody in your casino trying to do a good job and they click on the link trying to do their own little investigation, find out where these are going, that would be a way in possibly if in fact they open up the network to one of these links. It would be a bad idea.
Yeah. Also, one of the issues that I see, and it, it isn't just casinos that aren't online, because Arizona Gaming Commission just released like a week ago, also talking about in Arizona where online gaming is legal. But I think where you're seeing a big push is in the markets where you're not online, and they're saying, if you don't have that presence, kind of going back with the sweepstakes fight, that if you're not online and you're not filling that space, someone is going to come and fill it for you. And this is just the classic example of what we talked about a couple of weeks ago is if you're not there, if you don't have that online presence, someone's going to fill that void for you. And when you eventually decide to go online, you're going to find out someone's been sleeping in your bed all this time.
Well, that's my other concern. My other concern is the fact if and when it does go legal, right? As a customer, as a consumer, if I was victimized by the use of one of the legitimate tribal casinos' names, and now that tribal casino has an online platform, you don't think I'm going to be a little reluctant to go with that one versus the one down the road that I wasn't victimized by, right? My perception of being victimized. Clearly, the tribe had nothing to do with it, but yet I think it would taint something if down the road it becomes legitimate, or at least it's going to cause a lot more due diligence before I sign up for that marketing program over another one.
Yeah.
Well,
Jason, it looks like we got a lot of comments, and I think what I see the trend here, people are like, well, what can we do?
right.
Where can we go? What can we do? Tyler, what can they do? And we got to realize, we're doing this informational, we're raising the alarm, we're ringing the bell. So this is all new to us too.
Well, and
No.
Tyler, real quick, I mean, we can aggregate information. That seems like a lot of work and a full-time job. Someone else asked a question, is there a place you can go that lists all the apps that are, authorized and are tribally endorsed and or tribally owned? Man, that's a lot of work. And
Yeah, and
that's a full-time job.
I'm not suggesting that a tribe take that on.
Mhm,
I think number one is when I was suggesting if we aggregate data and show something,
mhm.
you're more likely to get the U.S. Attorney's Office to take a look at that because it is a national problem, as Victor's clearly articulated here, with all the advertisement, all the different reports coming out. One is that's the way to get it moving forward. If you want somebody truly held accountable, ultimately they're going to want to know that how widespread it is and how many victims are out there. And you need the victims to come forward, right? You can't just go based on assumption that this is happening. Right now, we've got marketing damage and false advertisement and that type of thing. I'm not an attorney. I'm not giving legal advice on this. I'm just telling you successfully how to get something to move forward in the federal government or even the state government. One thing I would suggest is that each state that's represented here go to your gambling regulator and say, look, we pay into a fund to support your program, your agency.
Right.
We're being victimized here. Our names being, we're being brand damage here. What steps are you taking? And bring that forward and ask. Like, we want you to put out an announcement, and they should be the ones now aggregating that data, not the tribes, right? Because and the best source is for them to talk directly to those victims that are coming forward. Like I said, I've made some phone calls and put the information out. I think that right now, at this early stage of where we're at, is the best thing to do. This type of webinar, the information going forward is now it's up to you, up to the individual tribe, up to the individual marketing department where they want to come out in front of this. But I think some tribes have chosen to put the alert out ahead of time, like don't be scammed. I think that's a good move, but I'm not going to give a tribe marketing information, because that also may be the perception that they were already victims of it, right? And they may not. They may be coming out in front of it saying, "Hey, don't fall for this." I think the states, whether it be the Department of Justice programs in different states, federal government putting out, maybe even NIGC putting out a broader announcement that, hey, this is happening, it's becoming a problem, and we don't want our tribes to be victimized by this, or whether it be brand damage, or we don't want constituents to be victimized by this. And even in the legal areas, right? Even if it's legal in that state, it's probably even easier to fall for because you believe it's legal and they're using those. So really, I think awareness at this point is probably the best step. If we can get that data to people that are interested in moving forward and finding out where these people, bad actors, are operating, where these IP addresses are operating out of, again, that's a much bigger investigation for somebody to take on, whether it be a state or the federal government. At this point, because it's so broad across the United States, I would recommend the federal government to take a look at it with the U.S. Attorney's Office.
When I was looking, if you go to the Michigan Department of Gaming Control Board, they have, and they've been very proactive on this too. They have a thing that says report suspicious activity. Now, if you go to the Arizona Department of Gaming, I thought what's interesting, they say is you should verify, verify the gaming site or app before playing. Now, what do you think that means, Tyler? How do you verify? And then look at, I know this is your gig, you're like me. Now what I think this means is that you go to the casino website, you go to, and that goes to the deeper problem that I mentioned earlier. It's on Google. You're going to get these apps from Google, the Google store. You can get them from the App Store and Apple where it feels like they're legit. I think most people know you don't go to a website and download their apps there. I think a lot of these iPhones you have to ask. I haven't done one in a while, but to break them, there you can do it, but it's difficult.
Yeah.
So, they feel like it's legit because it's on social media, it's on Facebook, it's on, so how do you verify it? How do you think you verify it?
Yeah, if I and like I said, I mentioned it before. If something like that, if this was something I was into and wanted to move forward with, obviously this mobile app, in many cases, you may not be near that brick and mortar. But the only solid way would one to be walk into that brick and mortar tribal casino and say, how do I sign up for your online platform? And in most cases, in some states, they're going to say, we don't have one. That's not legitimate. Or in other cases, they may say, okay, well, this is the legitimate app. This is where you get it. If not, the very least, a phone call to that casino and the marketing department to find out exactly what is the correct app. What is the process and verification that way, especially if you're going to start transacting with money, right? I mean, you're essentially assuming if it's legal online gambling, you're getting money in return, right? So how is that being returned? You're opening up your accounts to not only withdraw but then deposit. So again, that would be the only way that I would feel safe personally in this type of environment, because there is so much fraud out there with the different sites. The other thing too, I mean, you're talking about completely unregulated. Let's just say they actually have some type of gambling platform on there, completely unregulated. Now you're talking about also AML issues, right? Because how is that being monitored? I'm assuming this platform isn't properly addressing the Bank Secrecy Act. I mean, there's so many other variables that come into play. I just don't see that as a great mechanism. If you look at the online ones, if you're somewhere where you can online gamble, look at who the actual host is and reach out to them directly to find out what the actual correct app is, as opposed to just downloading one on whatever it may be, Google or Apple, and verify those things. And I would even say that, again, going back to the brick and mortar, is that's where you're giving your bank information and that type of thing, and then linking it to that app versus just trusting that that's going to be the correct place, because you got some marketing campaign. I think also the marketing, the casinos do a lot of marketing. So if you're getting inundated with marketing from your favorite casino, and this one they get lucky and they happen to use the same logo, I mean, again, you becomes more and more susceptible. So I think the clients and the patrons really need to call and verify. And that might be part of the messaging that you put out. If you are in a state where it's legal, that messaging might be, hey, be alert. There's scams going out there. This is the only true website that we have. This is the only true link that we have. Call us and verify if you have any questions. Give people steps to take before they just click on that link and download something.
Yeah, you know what? I think you're spot on. I think, tribes have to be proactive again, and it's not something we're not unfamiliar with, which is, being responsible for our own future. And I think everyone in the industry, I think you have to be proactive and go out there, communicate. Ed Mazzetti said, why not send out mass mails to reward holders and stuff like that? And, as I think about it more, I mean, I think they go for tribal because, I mean, obviously it's brand identity. It's easier. There's a real familiarity and a safeness. I mean, the tribes have gone above and beyond to create these safe spaces, and now that you have these other entities that are coming online and taking their names and going after their customer base, because of that familiarity. Now, Arizona and in Arizona, what they say over there, they come out and they say. Online gaming is not legal in Arizona. So you should not be gambling online. If you want to do sports betting, we do sports betting. But, I think even companies like FanDuel and DraftKings should be joining in on this fight too. I think they're the ones that get hurt on it. I think we should be, I think maybe this is the beginning of a new trend that we start working with the AGA, we start working with the SBA and other organizations to be proactive and fight against this, because I think we all have something to lose in this.
Well, I think also, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I agree. I agree completely.
I was going to say, I think the state aspect is important as well because you take a state like Virginia where there is no mobile gaming and very limited gambling here, but there is mobile sports betting in Virginia. But I mean, to my knowledge, I don't know that they've taken any steps, uh, to crack down on this within their state.
Yeah,
And
I think we're in the first couple innings. I think people are starting to
yeah,
become aware there's this issue. I mean, with the notice last week of Missouri, the Michigan one was the beginning of April. You know what I mean? And so now you're having other ones. So you're starting to see it ramp up. I'm starting to see more articles coming out the last week about this also. So I think people
Yeah.
are just starting to realize we have an infestation.
I think if any of the attendees just Google, the fake online gaming scam or online gambling scam, there's already plenty of advisements out there by a variety of government and tribal governments.
mm,
Um, there's already information out there about how it's been happening. But again, if you think about this, it doesn't even have to be the solicitation of an online gambling platform. If Victor sends me a message saying that I can earn points playing solitaire that I can later use at the tribal casino, people would sign up for that, right? It's like if I'm going to get something, even though in California, if you're doing any type of chance game, obviously solitaire wouldn't qualify for this, but anything of value could then become online gambling. So you got to look at that aspect. But it doesn't take much to get somebody to then just get that login, put their information out there, and thinking they're going to get points or something that can later convey on to their favorite casino location
Tyler,
or hotel room.
do you think this is screwing it up for the sweepstakes casinos and the crypto casinos? Do you think this is like really ruining the market for these guys? I mean, they've done such a good job to be legitimate. Now here come these other guys coming in. It's just part of this bigger trend of scammers scamming scammers and being bigger scammers than the other way. So I'm really worried about the reputation of the sweepstakes and promotional gaming industry people. You know what I mean? They work so hard to be the biggest frauds in the industry, and you have these new frauds coming and just stealing their thunder. I mean, I would be so upset, you
And
know?
it's any sweepstakes. Again, you look at the demographic you're looking for, and you're going to come up with an idea behind that that's going to get them to want to put their information into that site, right? I'm
Well,
going to tell
listen, you know,
there's a
it's
way, Victor. I right now, if you go to my link, you can sign up right now. I'm going to give away a guitar today.
where do I sign up?
Right. So if
What?
I know just a little bit about you, and I know people like the gamblers, then I'm gonna cater to that right there and get you. Oh wow, I want to win a guitar. So again, the more they have in that demographic, and then they try to cater to each one of those demographics that they're looking for. In
Well,
this
and
case,
and yeah.
casino.
Yeah, and the tribal gaming has always skewed a lot, older in the demographics and stuff like that. And I think maybe they're just trying to round everybody up. The sweepstake guys are getting the young and dumb, and now we're going for the tribal gaming customer and stuff like that. But obviously, I'm being irreverent and silly and stuff like that. But this is a real big issue, and I think it's important that we keep having these conversations and raising the visibility of this. And again, it's getting hard to ignore. You know what
right.
I mean? But again, the statement. Oh, and by the way, let me address Brandon's statement here too. But um, that other
Oh yeah.
just
We addressed it. Just, that casinos can be proactive and send out notices if they see a trend or something. Uh,
I think that's probably the best step at this
right.
point. This
Mhm.
early on, it's really going to be that awareness.
Mhm.
Just help your patrons take that extra step to verify before signing on to something. And I think it also shows that the tribal casinos is being proactive and cares about their patrons. That hey, we don't want you to be victimized by this, and we're going through the extra step to put this information out there.
Tyler, at some point we're going to have to eh, really, as an industry, and like you said, Victor, come together with the commercial folks and just get a solution because the problem, if you go back to 90s and 2000s again, the credit card companies did make it harder for people to just load up their account through a credit card offshore. They had some code that they started using, and those got blocked. And what did the offshore guys do? They had a workaround, whether it was PayPal or some other money wiring service, and so then you could just load up your PayPal account with your credit card and use PayPal to load up your uh, offshore casino, and you can do that 5, 6 times before they would catch up. If you just keep going to different payment services and transferring money around.
They bought a bank in Utah, or was it Idaho? They bought a
Right.
bank, you
And
know?
And,
yeah,
and that's part of the investigation, Jason. When one of those state or federal agencies, if they haven't already, start looking into this, they're going to look at what is behind this, right? What am I being required to fill out? What forms of payment are they taking? And as you take those steps, there's more ways to then prevent it, right? Whether it be contacting PayPal, alerting that these are the scams.
right.
Before preparation for this, I also thought of the AGA. Why isn't the AGA putting out a broad spectrum notification of this? And also, you talk about leveraging legal support, going after larger platforms, whether it be your social media platforms. Again, that should be something that the AGA and NIGC and people like that are looking at.
Instagram, TikTok, Facebook.
Look, if you're getting it on LinkedIn, then it's everywhere. I
It
mean,
must be legit. Let me tell you how I
it must be
want, you know what I
legit.
mean? Oh my God.
Unfortunately, Victor, that's the way I was. My point of earlier was, I wish we had more, uh, inquisitive, curious customers, but I think a lot of people just go for the ease of the transaction and aren't going to question. I mean, that's really what we're up against, is trying to get people to just think twice. And you mentioned it right off the top of the bat, Tyler. God forbid they should, give financial information, uh, but it happens, and it is happening. And you know, I guess I don't want to have our casinos be babysitting their customer base, but at some point it does impact their brand, and it shouldn't take much, as Brad suggested, to just send something out to your players club, and we are the only authorized, blank, blank, blank,
Well, look at that. That's what
entity.
Saquon did. You know what I mean? They felt it was necessary for them to reach out to their customers, reach out to the media, reach out to newspapers, but what's the motivation to stop Instagram or TikTok or Facebook to stop it? There, especially when there's a financial incentive, to
Uh,
keep taking advertising.
Real quick, Tyler. I mean, what if the customer is having a good experience on the site
Oh,
and
how
they
dare
do
you?
like it?
How dare you? How dare you?
I mean, you can get up against that as well. I mean, but
I
Serving a need, right?
mhm.
yeah, again, I would find it highly unlikely, just because of the mere fact of what is the gambling platform behind that that's going to, with any legitimacy, uh, you know, how is it being determined? How is the win being determined?
Yeah.
And then how is that payment being distributed back?
Mhm.
Again, it could be possible. I mean, there's sweepstakes that, when I originally referred to, when Victor originally reached out to me, I was thinking of the illegal sweepstake cafes and that type of thing
Mhm.
that were going on. Those were, a computer platform that you were essentially playing a slot machine type device.
Mhm.
Um, However, through some of the checks that we had done, it wasn't a random number generator type basis. It was more like a lottery ticket. Eventually you're going to have this play that comes out and it's predetermined. Um, so again, it just, you just don't know what's on the other side of that platform, right? Unless it's a legitimate casino, regulated casino, that's behind it. You just don't know.
As you were saying, it's just it, the way they promote themselves. People, it's really about boredom, isn't it? People are just, they're tired of doom scrolling, and they're just, well, I guess I'll kill some time playing a slot machine. This one's Saquon. We might as well go to that one, and you see a lot of these alerts that are saying, listen, we don't have an online presence. We don't have an online casino. Online gaming is not legal in Arizona. And again, that's where the sweepstake guys come in. It's a systemic of a bigger problem. the crypto casinos, the stake, and now these new ones, which are just on top of it, which is, by the way, blowing it for the rest of these guys, which is, it's a good question. There's an exchange of currency here. The big issue they're saying, listen, the gaming commissions are saying, listen, we have no way to mitigate these issues, and if you do illegal, we have no way to help you. We have no way to help you with your money, and yet people are still doing it. And so they have no reason to really be honest with anyone because they, like you said, they just change their name and they move on, and they just buy more advertising from FanDuel or excuse me, not FanDuel, from Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn.
And think about this too: is where's that money going, right? Uh, it's not far fetched for this illegal money to be going to some of our bad actor states,
Right.
governments. And so one of the things that came up, I started teaching about in my courses was a credit card that was actually loaded by virtual currency. And I won't say the company name, but essentially when I first heard about this and I looked at the website of the actual company, and this was a legitimate company, it still is, to my knowledge, you could load virtual currency and then go up to an ATM kiosk and withdraw money. So we had people doing this at card rooms. And so when I read the website, educated myself on the actual company and what it was, I immediately said, hey, this could be loaded anywhere in the world, right? So who's to say this isn't being loaded from North Korea or some other enemies, foreign state that's not friendly. And sure enough, OFAC hit that company about 6 months later for doing just that. There was Iran, North Korea, several states were loading these cards and being withdrawn anywhere else in the world. So again, keep in mind that we're sitting here combating, looking out for our patrons and our clients and our tribes. But there are people in other countries, thousands of people just sitting there all day long thinking and manipulating devices to try and scam you out of money. And they have all the time in the world, rooms full of people that are just sitting there thinking of different ways to scam people out of money. And that's the reality. So again, the more we can get them to go to the next place, get them off the tribal casinos, get them to focus on something else. I hate that's not a good result, but at least it protects the tribe's names, reputations, and the highly regulated industry of the tribal gaming industry nationwide. And in many cases, that's the best you can do it nowadays with this fraud is simply get them off of you and get them off to something else. And in many cases, it's to get more awareness. If our tribal gaming patrons are not falling for it, they're not giving them money, they're not signing up for it, then those people that are behind it are going to move on to some other demographic, right? They're going to go somewhere else that's more productive.
And you mentioned North Korea and anybody who follows this issue globally and stuff like that knows that this is a big money generator. Hacking, cybercrime, identity theft. This is very, very big multi-billion-dollar industry that these bad actors get around these embargoes and stuff like that too.
And why? Because people fall for it.
Because
people are willing to put their money on there and do it. And so really that education is the number one prong in trying to reduce this fraud.
And Ed asked, are we planning on doing a webinar on the contract gaming? What does he mean, Jason?
Contract gaming. I wonder if he means the commodities, futures, and trading stuff. The future
yeah.
contract.
As a matter of fact, I'm having a conversation right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother issue. And unfortunately, they keep at least winning preliminarily in the courts. I shouldn't say unfortunately, but these judges are taking a very reasoned approach and kicking it back to Congress, it looks like. But that's not illegal gambling, obviously. That's not what, no one's saying that. This is, like Tyler's been saying, straight up fraudulent stuff. And I guess, Tyler, we've got a number of requests. I happen to check my email real quick, and some folks want to meet up with you or talk with you offline, or I guess maybe engage some of your services with what's going on out there. So, um,
I vouch for Tyler. I
yeah, I
vouch.
vouch for Tyler too. I don't know if I always vouch for all these.
In case my wife is watching, I'm happily married for any of you of those that just are not.
Oh yeah, they want to
Well,
wine and
I have
dine
some of
you.
those emails too. Actually, I said, Jason, I got those emails sent
Oh,
to
okay.
me.
Oh, get out of here, Victor.
Tyler, yeah,
Nobody wants to go
they
out with
want you
you.
to unbutton another button, please. Would you bring the button down, please?
By all means, I can be LinkedIn, Tyler Burtis, and Burtis
Mhm.
Investigations LLC. I'm more than happy to.
Awesome.
I only work with tribal governments and state governments. I don't work for card rooms
Mhm.
and that type of thing. So
Yeah.
They fear him at the card rooms. They fear him because he's, and listen, again, Tyler, without my friends, I'm nothing. And he's been one of the people I have a great friendship with. And when I brought this issue to him,
Mhm.
he just jumped on it, and it was great. I said I'd like to do this in a couple weeks, and I think we were both surprised at the magnitude of this. But I can highly recommend Tyler. He's a great guy. He works with a lot of tribes, and I really appreciate him coming and having this discussion here with
Yeah,
us.
Tyler, thank you so much. And yeah, we're gonna I think, over the course of this year, just to let folks know, we're really gonna be focusing on all forms of illegal gambling, the sweepstakes, and all these websites and whatnot. And we're gonna, refocus, again on what the CFTC is doing, offering letting these sports marketing contracts go out across the country and start focusing on that. We're entering, after NBA finals and everything, it's going to be kind of a quiet period of sports betting until football starts up again. Victor doesn't know this. He doesn't do the seasons. He actually does the seasons by nature, not by what sport is popular right now. But
No idea.
so but yeah, we'll be picking all this up again throughout the year. And I'll just leave it, this final, I guess it's people are going to say it's a political commentary, but one of the biggest things we're dealing with right now, and I'm going to deal with right as we get off this, is the NIGC is not functioning as a agency right now. They've had a number of people take buyouts. They're closing regional offices or threatening to. We don't have a chairman, and it's tough right now.
There's
And
my topic for next week.
well, also that the Trump folks defunded CISA, the cyber security agency. So there's a lot of holes right now in our regulatory system for gaming. And like you said, AGA knows all this, and we're going to start having to work together. If they wanted to, hey, look, if we want to do it ourselves, if they want us to do it ourselves, the tribes are more than capable at this point, Victor, of ramping up whatever we need to ramp up in terms of taking over to stop these cyber attacks. It's not like the federal government has done anything, to stop it over these past 10 years or so. They keep happening, and insurance companies tell everyone to sweep it under the rug and just pay it off. And we're really reaching a tipping point here. It's just that the confluence of it all, and then you have an administration that wants to really normalize Bitcoin and all that, 180-degree change from where they were last time. It's making things difficult, and the whole anonymity aspect of it again is where we could, where our businesses will be threatened with bad actors. So we'll work on it, and that's going to be our focus for the rest of the year, frankly.
yeah, I'm in regular touch with federal governments, whether it be Secret Service, IRS. I work a lot with them still.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, it not a political statement at all, but it has definitely changed a lot in the federal government. And some of my clients, one of the things I've told them, especially in the anti-money laundering realm,
Right.
don't assume that they won't, come across the AML aspect of it. It's going to be different now. Right? You may not have an IRS BSA team come out and do an audit of you, but because of now some of these gangs being listed as terrorist organizations, if some of those people are coming into casinos and spending money and laundering money, you're going to get it from a different angle. You're not going to see it coming, right? It'll be go to the U.S. Attorney's office, and now you're looking at a larger case with somebody else involved. That's a whole other conversation. But
Right.
with
Wow.
that federal government, although it's a bit in disarray right now,
Mhm.
don't assume that there isn't other activities taking place that they're more aggressive even
Right.
from the
That's
past.
true. You're right, Tyler. Thanks for that. So,
Yeah.
well, thanks for coming on
And
today, Tyler. Go ahead, Victor.
I just want to point out the guard dog that Tyler had there in the background. I don't think we didn't hear that, Tyler. You know what I mean? So don't come at him. Don't come at him.
That was actually my 5-minute alarm. I only had 5 minutes left. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Listen, thank you so much,
Thank
Tyler.
you.
Appreciate you coming out. Thanks, everybody. Great questions. Great issue. And we will continue having this conversation. And next week, we're going to talk about the NIGC because that's very important. So, Tyler, thank you so much. And everyone, how do they find you again, buddy? How do they find you again?
Thank you, my friend.
How do we find you again? On LinkedIn, Tyler Burtis?
LinkedIn, yeah, my website, Burtis Investigations.
Right.
Very easy to find.
If it says marketing in the name, take it out.
Don't send me
if it says
any
marketing director, he's going to delete it. Yeah. Like I do. All right, guys. Thank you very much. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks, everybody. This was great. Appreciate it. All right. Bye.